Thank you for joining us at Ending Productions. We have a task we would like you to complete.
We want you to conduct some research into our latest film, Severance.
We want you to go out to members of the public and show them our first draft.
And due to our film being in the final stages,
Before we exhibit our film, we would like to make the best changes.
this is a really important task.
We have a lot of competition, and by making these changes, we will be ahead of the game.
You have 4 days.
Based on our audience feedback, we made a couple of changes to our film.
The first change we made was we added flashbacks of the main protagonist and the wife's relationship into the beginning and the end of the film. We did this because our audience said that there wasn't very much deterioration within their relationship and they didn't really understand why he had killed her in the first place. So to give our narrative more of a structure, we added these at the beginning and end just to really sum up their marriage and sum up the characters in more detail.
The second change was the music at the start of the film. In the war scene, all you could hear was just various gunshots and common war sounds, but it wasn't intense enough for our audience. It felt like it was just too basic, too normal. So what we decided to do was add in like a dramatic soundtrack to make the audience feel like it's really exciting, to feel like they're really, really there, so they can actually feel like the full thrill of a film. So that's what we've done.
We originally put our title at the beginning after our production logos to introduce the film, but when we got our audience feedback we sort of decided to move it after the war scene, as they sort of told us that we needed more of an introduction to the film to engage them before they knew any detail about it. So we placed that after the war scene, so we had a scene before the titles were introduced.
Another change we made is quite a small change, but it just shows that small things really do matter. For example, when Nikki comes out of a workplace, her phone goes off, but before that, there was no sound. The phone just come up and she miraculously looked at it. We added in a sound effect of a bleep to show that it's really realistic, so that people can actually understand what's going on, and to make sure that there's no errors in our film, to make sure that it's perfectly spot on.
My head wasn't right. It didn't feel like it was me. It was just like someone had wormed their way into my body and taken over. Everything felt distorted until my hands left the wheel and I couldn't see a body in my rearview mirror.
Another change we made was we combined music with our main protagonist's monologue. We did this to heighten the emotion, as before our audience said they lost interest when our main protagonist was saying this monologue because there wasn't very much variation. It was sort of a similar monologue that went on and sort of ended our piece. So we added the music to make our audience feel more emotional about this character and the situation that he's been put in. Yeah.
And the last change, but obviously not least, is the actual order of the scenes. Our original idea was to start off with the bridge scene, me drinking on the bridge, thinking, having my depressed thoughts, but the audience told us that it doesn't show anything about the character, it shows that he's depressed. So by adding the war scene at the start of that, it sort of gives like a bit of a background on the character, so the audience sort of know who he is, know what he's been through, have a bit of an idea of who the person is. Whereas before it's just a random guy on the screen and then there was no story behind it. So by adding the war scene in front of the bridge scene, it sort of like gives it more of a structure, as mentioned before.
I think all of these changes we've made will benefit our film in the long run and has a far better impact on our audience than it did before.
Yep. So, bye bye.